Next, Michael Budkie is the co-founder and executive director of Stop Animal Exploitation Now, SAEN. Am I saying that right? Which works exclusively on the animal experimentation issues by successfully terminating research projects, forcing the USDA to take legal action against laboratories, and coordinating releases of animals into sanctuaries. After witnessing the extricities of animal experimentation during education, he successfully ended a head injury experiment on cats at University of Cincinnati, which launched his career, leading to positions with several national organizations and co-founder of SAEN. He has been published and travels a lot, appearing on TV and radio programs to expose the truth about animal experimentation. Please, Michael Budkie.
Good morning. In the 1980s, my life really had no direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. But after a lot of soul searching, I realized that I wanted to help animals somehow. As a result of this decision, I enrolled in a veterinary technician program at the University of Cincinnati. I can tell you right now, I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. To this day, decades later, I remember many of the experiences I had there. I remember walking down a hallway and looking into a laboratory room only to see a rat beheaded. I remember going up to an empty dog run that just the day before had contained a dog that had become my friend. I remember touching him, I remember feeding him, and I remember becoming attached to him. I know what happened to that dog. I know what lab he went to. And I knew when I saw that empty dog run that I was never ever going to see that dog again, because he was very likely already dead. I can still see his face. Silence, my silence in that instant allowed that dog to die and allowed every other dog that was a part of that project to die. I failed them. I didn't know how to speak up for animals yet. In the 1980s, nobody knew anything about animal research. The silence about animal research was literally deafening. Today, whether we are talking about animals or whether we are talking about our fellow activists, our silence often allows exploitation to happen in the first place and to continue. Just as we must speak up to prevent animal exploitation, we must also speak up to prevent the exploitation of our fellow activists. Just as we want animals to be safe from harm, we must make certain that our fellow activists in this movement are safe from harm, that our workplaces and our events are safe places for everyone. After I completed my degree and was registered as an animal health technician, my wife and I became activists with a local animal rights organization. And as they mentioned in my introduction, we did successfully end a research project that killed thousands of cats. But Karen, my wife, and I learned one undeniable truth as a part of that campaign. There is only one effective weapon against animal research or any form of animal exploitation. That weapon is truth, facts, data. Animal research is an immense issue. It contains hundreds of millions of lives and hundreds of millions of data points. It's an issue that is so large that the general public, in many instances, literally cannot understand of it simply because of the size. We are talking about hundreds of millions of animals dying every year. We are talking about the waste of billions of dollars in federal tax money. And so if we are to communicate this to the public, we have to break those immense facts, those data points down into manageable pieces. The truth is that in the last year alone, 7,700 animals died in laboratories, not from experiments, but just simply from negligence. These deaths and many injuries occurred before the experiments ever even happened. The fact is that the University of Kansas Medical Center killed dozens of animals through horrific negligence, which included accidentally setting a mouse on fire. The reality is that the Indiana University School of Medicine killed 116 animals through sheer negligence, which included starvation, dehydration, drowning, and suffocation. And those deaths were not part of any experiment. The fact is that the University of Iowa's negligence killed over 244 animals through starvation, hypothermia, and cervical dislocation. That's right, they broke their necks. The reality is that negligence at the University of Massachusetts Medical School killed more than 30 animals through starvation, dehydration, suffocation, and decapitation. In addition to that, they actually found living animals in carcass freezers, because the staff at the University of Massachusetts is so inept, they actually can't even kill animals correctly. And if they can't do basic things like this, why should we believe they can do science? These are the facts, the truth, and they are bad enough, obviously. We don't need to lie. We don't need to exaggerate, because the truth, the facts, the data that we have are shocking and horrible enough. In the case of animal experimentation, we don't come up with the truth. The laboratories actually say these things about themselves, and our job is simply mining this data. In many instances, the credibility of animal rights activists is nothing to write home about. We are not believed by the general public. And so in this issue, that's really not a problem, because we don't come up with this data. The laboratories say it about themselves, and all we have to do is speak the truth back at them. After our expose about the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, the Massachusetts Society for Biomedical Research was contacted to comment on what we had said. And while responding to our expose, they said that saying that our stated intent was to end the use of all animal models in medical research. They actually said, and I quote, "They go about doing it by chipping away, little by little, eroding public trust." Finally, someone in the animal abuse and experimentation industry got something right. We do use facts. We weaponize information and data, and our goal is quite simply to eliminate and close down all animal labs. Essentially, what we do is we speak truth to power. We refuse to allow the biomedical industry to peddle their lies without opposition, and we refuse to allow them to hide the reality of animal experimentation from the public who pay their salaries. Speaking truth to power has had amazing consequences for us. It has closed Simcool's animal laboratory permanently, where hundreds of guinea pigs were forced every year to literally swim in toxic chemicals. Speaking truth to power permanently closed Harvard's Primate Research Center. Cages that imprisoned thousands of monkeys are forever empty. Speaking truth to power also closed the Santa Cruz biotech companies, laboratories, and forced them to pay a $3.5 million fine to the federal government, the largest fine ever levied against a laboratory. All of this is about facts, about truth, and about speaking that truth to power. Sherry Runner from the Chicago office of the Urban League said it best. Speaking truth to power means believing deeply in what you say and fighting every day to have that heard. It may not be popular. It means taking a risk. It means being willing to stand for something. Standing for something. This isn't only relevant to our fight for animals. This must also govern how we treat each other, how we treat other activists, and how organizations interact with each other in this movement. On the most basic level, we must all learn many simple truths. One of them is that no means no. This impacts not only our fight to control our own bodies, but also to control the arc of our work for animals, without some uninvolved organization taking credit for what we've done simply so they can do fundraising. We must not step on other activists or organizations to move forward, just as we must not hold individuals back due to gender, gender identity, or gender orientation. We must not exploit the work of other organizations simply to make money, because in both cases, we rob the animals of individuals who are working for their freedom. Finally, as a movement, we must keep our eyes on the prize. This work, this movement that we are all a part of is about one thing and one thing only: empty cages. This is not about notoriety. This is not about our salaries. This is not about the size of organizational budgets. This is about empty cages. And I am going to say it again in case any of you missed it. This movement is about empty cages. Empty animal labs, shuttered slaughterhouses, and animal-free circuses. The exploitations that we fight are not and can never, ever be humane. There is no such thing as humane animal experimentation. There is no such thing as humane slaughter. There is no such thing as a humane circus. And if anyone tells you anything different, they are quite simply lying. Just as we were arriving at this conference, a rather startling article ran in Science magazine. The title of that article was "A Cataclysmic Wake-Up Call. Can more candor win back support for animal research?" The biomedical industry is justifiably terrified that public opinion is turning against them. I can answer the question posed in that Science magazine article. The supposed candor of the biomedical industry has no value because they don't know the meaning of the word. And I'm going to warn you that right now we're putting up a photograph which some people might consider disturbing. Chen. That photo is candor. It was taken by the USDA inside a Southern California animal laboratory within just the last 2 years. Candor like this will not bring back support to animal research. Facts like this photo are going to help us end animal research once and for all. And I have one last thing to say to the biomedical industry. Your cataclysm is coming. In fact, it is sitting right here in this room. You have nothing to look forward to but watching as we close every animal laboratory one by one across this country. We are going to shut them all down, and we are going to do it with facts. Thank you.